So I've been wanting to talk about pronouns for a while. This video right here is one of the first videos that I wanted to make when I started talking about trans issues, and I didn't make it because I wanted to do a little bit more research and just familiarize myself a little bit more with the debate surrounding trans pronoun usage. People have very strong feelings about pronouns, very strong feelings, and pronouns are a big issue in the trans community. When I started researching trans subjects, it was a few years back, and I kept on thinking to myself, okay, something's going on here. Am I transgender? That seems a little weird. Like, why would I be transgender? But what's going on? There's something happening. And so I'd, go to Google, am I transgender? And Google would give me article after article after article about pronouns, which didn't help me figure things out at all. It was very frustrating. But it did tell me from the very first that pronouns are a big issue in the trans community. So I figured I want to make a series of videos about pronouns, and the first stop on that series is going to be my own personal pronouns. So I'm never going to tell people what my pronouns are. I'm never going to give people a set of preferred pronouns. And my first thought was, well, what if I end up in some trans support group or some group of people where it's just customary to announce your pronouns from the beginning, like, hey, my name is Oak Leaves, my pronouns are, she, her. Would I do that? And at this point, after thinking about it for quite some time, I've come to the conclusion that even then I wouldn't. I'd be like, my pronouns are whatever, my pronouns are whichever word you choose to use, I do not care. The reason I would not give a set of pronouns, even if asked to, is extremely personal to me. And so I figured I would share that with you guys. And I mean, because it is personal, I think I should specify I'm in a different place than, for example, a trans woman who's 6'5", who's got broad shoulders, whether she wants to or not, and she's been transitioned for, 3 years, and there are some things about herself that she just can't change. We're in a different place. We're in different places in our lives, and we're going to have different experiences surrounding pronouns. So I think it's pretty important to specify very early on that this is my own experience with my own pronouns, my own feelings. What applies to me is not necessarily going to apply to other people, and I don't think it should be applied to other people necessarily. One size does not fit all when it comes to the trans community. So it's very important to make that clear. But for me, one of the things that first tipped me off to the fact that there was something going on with me was pronouns. Every once in a while, people would do what I called sir-mamming, where they'd walk up to me and they'd be talking with me and they'd call me sir. Usually somebody who'd never met me before, because people who had met me before knew that I was biologically female. But people just meeting me for the first time would refer to me as sir or speak to me as sir. And, it would be a couple seconds before they clued into the fact that I was biologically female. So usually when I talk, because I'm female and my voice is female, and then they'd have this moment where it's like, oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. And the thing that got me, the very first time and every time that it happened after that, was that there was this moment of just golden excitement when they called me sir. And then it just flickered out like a snuffed candle the moment they said, oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. And I couldn't figure out what that was. Turns out I'm an autoandrophile. I kept on looking, am I trans? Am I trans? Depending on how you define transgender, yes or no doesn't really matter to me. I'm an autoandrophile. That's what I am. I really like being seen as male, being perceived as male, and I wish I could be male. There are biological realities that hold me back from that, so I'm not going to transition because it just isn't something that appeals to me on multiple levels and for multiple reasons. But do I wish I could be a dude? Yes, that would be lovely. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life. Never going to transition. Definitely wish I could somehow wave a magic wand and become a man. And pronouns were one of the things that first tipped me off to that. So if it is so exciting to me to be perceived as male and to have people use male pronouns around me, wouldn't it make logical sense for me to ask people to use masculine pronouns when they're talking about me? Why don't they call me he? Why don't I just say, hey, call me he, him, his, or whatever? I don't really know how people introduce the pronoun conversation, but why don't I just introduce myself with my accompanying set of preferred pronouns? Because there are clearly some pronouns that I enjoy. Why don't I do that? And the reason is, when a person uses pronouns, and this is something I never thought about until I started thinking about trans issues and trans pronoun usage. When a person uses pronouns, they're communicating something very, very subconscious and very fundamental. And it's so subconscious that I don't think anyone ever really thinks about it. Naturally, when someone has known you for a while or already knows your biological sex, pronouns are not something that they're even going to think about. So, for example, my husband is going to use she, her pronouns when he's talking about me because he's married to me. He knows I'm a woman, and he's always perceived me that way. There's never come a point in his life where he's not perceived me that way. And the same goes for my mother-in-law, my stepfather-in-law, my children, the teachers at my kids' school. Everybody around me who knows me, they're, pretty obviously going to use she, her pronouns because that's how they know me, and they already know me and know me as a biological female. But every once in a while, when someone meets me and they don't know me, they're assessing me as a person, because that's what people do when they meet one another. They look at the other person and they make a series of tabulations. Many, many, many assessments on multiple levels, all just happening in fractions of a second inside their brain. Is this person old? Are they young? Are they male? Are they female? And the way a human being tells that another human being is either male or female is secondary sexual characteristics. Primary sexual characteristics are genitalia. Human beings wear clothes, so you just can't tell by glancing at a human being what their primary sexual characteristics are. That's all covered up. So when we interact with one another, we kind of have to evaluate one another based on our secondary sexual characteristics. And so you kind of look another person up and down really, really quickly, fractions of a second. This is all subconscious. You're not aware that you're doing this when you meet a new person. And you notice, do they have breasts? Do they have a feminine facial shape? Do they have a visible Adam's apple? All these little teeny details, all of which get tabulated up very, very quickly, and it's like an internal equation. Your brain goes, check, 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 check. Okay, female. And every once in a while when someone meets me, their brain goes through that internal calculation, and for whatever reasons, they see enough blurred or masculine secondary sexual characteristics that they come up with the conclusion, this individual that I'm currently talking to is male. And so they call me sir. And usually they have a moment where some secondary sexual characteristic of mine, appears, frequently my voice, which is feminine, and their brain retabulates and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't realize. But in that split second, for, however long it lasts, and I've had conversations with people where, they really didn't know for, a good minute or two that I was not male. They didn't know. And so for a good minute or two while I was interacting with this person, they were very certain that I was just a male. That makes me happy. And it's all extraordinarily genuine because people don't plan this. They don't think about it. It happens instantly and subconsciously. If I was to tell people, these are my pronouns, you need to call me he, him, all of a sudden, that magical sparkle of a moment when somebody genuinely reads my secondary sexual characteristics and decides, oh, this must be a man, that goes away. I never get that again. Because every time someone talks to me, they're going to have this dictated speech. They're going to see the big pronoun pin that I'm wearing, and they're going to think, oh, he, him, his. And it's not necessarily going to be genuine. They're not necessarily going to be on that subconscious fundamental level reading me and saying, oh, that's a man. They're going to be reading me and saying, either male or female, probably female. And they're going to see the pronoun pin, and they're going to use the pronouns because most people are trying to be polite. Most people are trying to be nice people, and they're trying to do the right thing. And also, I think sometimes they just don't want me to start screeching at them like a banshee, because God knows there are videos on the internet of that happening. So I have no idea whether they read me as male or female. That bit of subtext completely goes out of my interactions with other people. And that bit of subtext has brought me incredible joy in my own life. And it's not something that I feel in any way inclined to give up. I'd rather hold on to those few precious moments that people subconsciously assess me as being male than to have every person that I interact with on a daily basis call me male, even though they subconsciously assess me as female. That's my own personal feelings about it. That's how I would rather interact with the world around me. I think that the social feedback that I get from a genuine misgendering, in my case, where they accidentally call me male instead of female, that tells me so much, and it makes me feel so good about myself. I would never want to lose that or replace it with something artificial. And so, again, I'm not in the same place as a trans woman who's been transitioned for 3 years, who has secondary sexual characteristics that she simply cannot escape because she has the bone structure that she has. That's a very different place to be. But for me personally, this is where I'm at. I'd like to make another video talking about, having talked about my own pronouns. And again, I don't want people referring to me as he if they don't read me as male. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I kind of want to leave my pronouns open-ended, just to see, just to get that social feedback from people, how they read me and how they perceive me. It tells me a lot. But I do want to do a video about pronouns in the trans community kind of on a larger scale, like not just me, but the trans community, because there's a lot going on there and it's very interesting. So that's probably what my next video is going to be about, unless something shiny catches my attention and then I make a video about that instead. Until then, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day, and I will talk to y'all later.